Your SEO is not dead, it's just invisible. Right now, every time a potential customer asks an AI what to buy, where to go, or who to trust, that AI is forming an opinion about your brand without you in the room. And you have no idea what it's saying. It could be wrong about your pricing, wrong about your product, wrong about who you even are. And the longer you wait, the harder the false narrative is to unwind. Because once an AI makes up its mind, it hardens fast. You're not losing customers to a competitor, you're losing them to hallucination. The brands that figure this out in the next 12 to 18 months will own the decade. The ones that don't will be invisible at the exact moments their customers are ready to buy. So if AI answered every question your customer had about you right now, without them ever visiting your website, what story would it tell? And is that the story you actually want told? Welcome to AI for Founders. I'm Ryan Estes. My guest today is Justin Inman, founder and CEO of Emberos, a former Google exec who left one of the most powerful companies in digital advertising to build the operating system for AI brand visibility. You will learn how AI is silently misrepresenting brands at scale and what the smartest founders are doing to take control and why prompts are the new clicks. The founders winning right now are not the ones working harder, they're the ones staying sharper. The AI for Founders newsletter at aiforfounders.co delivers the insights, tools, and conversations that keep you ahead of the curve. One email, one edge every week. Go get it at aiforfounders.co. And if this hit different, drop a 5-star review and help another founder find the show. And speaking of showing up in the right places, kitcaster.com is the premier podcast booking agency that gets founders onto the right shows, in front of the right audiences, and at exactly the right time. Strategic placements that build authority, drive leads, and put your name in the conversations that matter. Go to kitcaster.com and tell them AI for Founders sent you. That's Kitcaster by Moburst. All right, Justin, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining me.
Excited to be here.
100%. Now, particularly, I'm excited because you have an amazing company that's kind of has the product on the tip of everybody's tongue, and that's how to optimize LLMs to give your product recommendations. You know, we know now that Google search is just fading to number 2, even within Google. You know what I mean? It's going to spit out the Gemini answers first. So really kind of the SEO has entered into a new era where we're not even sure what the acronym is yet. So is it AEO or is it GEO? What is it?
There's a lot. There's AIO, AEO, GEO. There's a lot of different acronyms. I think the space is starting to kind of like get around to AEO and GEO.
Yeah, AEO, GEO. Where it's like GIF and GIF. People are taking their sides, but it's kind of amazing that it's so early. We don't even have a name for it yet, but everybody knows exactly what it is.
It's the top of mind of every marketer, that's for sure.
100%. So that's a good place to kind of dovetail into your company, and you have to correct me, again, not knowing how to pronounce it. It's either Emberos or Emberos. Which one is it?
Emberos.
Emberos. Love it.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's emberos.ai. Now, there's probably some new products that are springing to market. Tell me a little bit about Emberos, exactly kind of what the tactics, what the differentiator is for you guys.
Yeah. So I would say the majority of the space is thinking about AI visibility in a very narrow channel, which is basically content creation. We have competitors in the space that are really, focused on AI generated articles, and they push it out to the website or across a bunch of syndicated publishers. I spent about 10 years at Google, and I know that hack it's only a matter of time until the LLMs start to pick up on what that looks like. And so we built Emberos to be the first platform to be looking at AI visibility across your entire digital footprint, which is paid, owned, and earned, right? So what you're doing on social or even podcasts and PR, et cetera, everything is interconnected. And so that's how you should be viewing AI visibility.
Totally. You know, and look, this is probably a good introduction to kind of what you were working on with Google, because, you know, through Google search, I remember it from the beginning. I remember when Google Analytics took away the keywords that they used to give you just for free. It was a wonderful time. But really the early terms were like kind of white hat, black hat. They started to differentiate on like, hey, this is cool, you know, provide great resources, provide great content, we'll reward you with search raising to the top of search. But if you're doing stuff like doing links on a white page with white fonts that's more black hat. So it started to filter itself out kind of early on. So maybe a little bit of inspiration of like what brought Emberos out and like kind of what you were doing at Google and where you saw an opportunity.
Yeah. So I spent about 10 years at Google. I was always on the enterprise sales team. So worked with some of the largest marketers of the world, everyone from Coca-Cola, L'Oreal, Unilever. And I was selling kind of Google's ad tech and MarTech solutions to CMOs. And that period of time was a little rough, right? Like going in and to Kellogg and saying, "Hey, let's talk about cloud infrastructure," to a company that is not used to be having those types of technology conversations is a little rough. But everyone got there, right? And everyone got to see the value of that. I would say now, that period of time was probably like 3 to 5 years. Right now, I'd say the period of time to be able to get into these LLMs and start to optimize towards your visibility and kind of your brand recommendations, et cetera, that's a very truncated window because the shifts are happening so rapidly within consumers and AI in general, right? I would say it's probably like a 12 to 18 month period that everyone will be kind of thinking about this and really kind of putting a stake in the ground for it. So when I left Google, last year, I really kind of saw my own personal LLM and AI assistant and chatbot usage explode. I really kind of actually saw when my mom, who's like the most tech inept person ever, was like quoting ChatGPT quite a bit, and I was like, wow, this has to be a space that the marketers have to be freaking out about. And then I did my research, right? I looked and saw that there was other big players in the space. One of them just actually hit Series B. My biggest competitor actually hit from the moment they started to Series C was 18 months. They're valued at $1 billion company. And I was like, well, I don't really want to jump into a space that is already super crowded, right? But I got a couple demos of the largest players in the space, and the biggest player. Once I got that demo, I started the company the next day because I was like, this is not how you should be thinking about it. It's a very narrow viewpoint on how AI visibility will be, viewed and optimized towards in the future. So. Some people might think I was absolutely crazy, but I felt super passionate about like this is not what marketers want right now or will need in the future.
Yeah. And the tool is actually totally different. Obviously the output is a little bit different, but the tool is different because especially now, the last 3 months, it's starting to learn much better and it's starting to get context much better on who you are. So the opportunity for it to really customize and really start serving up the best results is great. So let's maybe talk a little bit about, just search in general, how it's kind of evolved, because everyone was used to Google. You go to a question, then you get a page result full of a bunch of links. You have, paid is up on top and down below. You're kind of filtering around like, hey, what is the good content? What isn't? Whereas now if you're using Claude, you're using ChatGPT, it's just giving you answers, So if you ask a question, what's the best taco spot near me? It's like, here. And you're like, oh, yep. Great. So it's much more direct. The influence it has is much greater because, some people are falling in love with their chatbots,
Yep.
and I'm not going to say I have romantic love for mine, but I would say there's a fondness.
The best friend. It's a best friend. Yeah.
Yeah. So there are recommendations. I'm like, yeah, actually, I will try that. You know me so well. Thank you. So what kind of unique challenges does that represent? And, what kind of opportunities kind of exist there? This episode is brought to you by a dangerous idea. It's called reading, specifically the AI for Founders newsletter. 47,000 founders strong now, and it's the good stuff. No top 10 AI tools that will change your life written by someone who doesn't ship product. It's just real breakdowns of what's actually working in AI. Who's raised, who failed, who pivoted, and which founders quietly built $1 million in ARR while everyone else was arguing on X. It's written for people building with AI. Every week you get tactical frameworks, unfair advantages, breakdowns of real companies, and the occasional existential question about whether your startup is intelligent or just well-branded. It's free, it's sharp, it might mildly offend your current workflow. Go to aiforfounders.co and subscribe before your competitor does. Because the only thing worse than being replaced by AI is being replaced by a founder who reads. That's the newsletter at aiforfounders.co. Now back to the show.
Yeah. So I would say just as like how the LLMs or AI is getting to know you better. I think that the biggest issue that we're seeing in the space is that you each LLM operates very differently, right? And so they might have a certain viewpoint on what a brand or product is or a favorite taco spot, and that differs across ChatGPT, Gemini, Grok, Perplexity, DeepSeek, etc. So that leaves a massive issue for your brand or your company because you really have no control of how they're representing it. And a lot of times it's incorrect, right? Misinformation, because it's scanning the entire internet. And if there's not a consistent kind of narrative that happens across the internet, it starts to kind of hallucinate and give you recommendations that might not actually be what you're looking for. So there's a massive opportunity for everyone to kind of tighten what that narrative looks like across the internet. I think you mentioned something interesting just around consumer shifts, just around search in general, right? So Google AI overviews, they cut, I've seen upwards to 70% of site traffic, right? And that's a massive issue for publishers. Some cases it's 30, some cases it's 40. I think Google's official standpoints, it's less than 50, but like the outliers there that are getting 80% cut. So that's one piece. The publishers or your site itself is actually getting less traffic because of Google AI reviews. The perfect storm situation is that the AI chatbots and AI are becoming the front door of the internet as well at the same time, right? So you're not getting your organic search or organic visits through just your typical Google search, but they're also breaking that kind of model as well and going to the AI chatbots and saying, what is the best taco shop for me? So it's a massive issue, right? It's a massive issue for publishers, right? Like, CNN and these massive news publications, their AI overviews are just giving summaries of the current and latest articles. It's also happening within the LLMs themselves. It's a massive issue for brands. They're not getting site traffic, but they're also not fully understanding if they're actually showing up in these LLMs and how they're showing up. And so for us, like we saw that opportunity and we started to build a platform that helped kind of for the brands and also for the publishers to understand how much they're actually getting cited in these LLMs and these AI responses. So for us, it's definitely solving a need because that shift is happening quite rapidly. And I think everyone's kind of seeing it firsthand and feeling the pain of not getting enough traffic to their site.
Yeah. The theme of Q1 2026 is I feel behind.
Yeah. Welcome to the club. It's yeah, go for it.
Everybody I talk to has that, all the way from like the scrappy startup one-man operation to the venture-backed Billy. Everybody's feeling this right now, and it's creating impulsive kind of reaction. So if you're like, oh my gosh, our site traffic is down 70%, we have to do something now. And where we're also at right now is we have the technical ability to do some pretty incredible things. So I've seen demos of tools that spin up 50 websites in an hour with 50 blog posts on each one published each hour. So we're talking about just bots feeding bots, but it's generating traffic. Now, where's that traffic coming from? Is it coming from the LLM? So like literally we have some kind of dead internet theory. But if we're looking at metrics, like this might work right now. I have a feeling like they're gonna police this pretty quickly. It's probably not a good way to go. And the other side is, they're 6 weeks ago, they're like, OpenAI is using Reddit training data and everything. See another product where people are spinning up 1,000 bot Reddit accounts that are gaining karma and then doing like different kind of like interactions and engagements and recommendations, all for the sole purpose of feeding that. So you have this kind of panic. I feel left behind. I need to replace. Those two examples seem like it's not a good long-term play. So maybe before we get into the good solutions of how we can monitor what is being said about our brand on LLMs and what we can do proactively, are there any other examples of things you should not be doing right now?
I think those two things are probably ones that are absolutely not be doing right now. There's this concept of like push to publish, which is like this AI generated content that the platforms in the space are basically saying like, hey, we can put your brand guidelines in here, and we'll make sure it's clean and safe, and we can have an agent push it to your website. I think it's a big risk, right? Like, basically, the AI generated like content and articles, they don't know the context layer, right? Like, they don't understand if you might not want to be pushing that type of running shoes because it's out of stock, right? And then what's happening is like they push it out to a bunch of syndicated publishers and the LLMs, and they will get smarter. I promise you that. They're picking up grandma's blog as an authoritative source for running shoes, right? And as the consumers start to like get a little bit like savvier too, and they start to see that grandma's blog as an authoritative source on best running shoes, that breaks the trust with the LLMs, right? And so like they're like, well, why is that getting cited as like the best running shoe like authoritative site for that, right? And so I think it's easy to kind of get sucked into these like hacks, right? Where it's push to publish and like do these like 1,000 generated articles and all these things. I think the real risk, which I think we're already starting to see, is that the companies that are starting to do this, they get delisted from search, and then it's kind of game over. It's like very hard for them to get back onto search. And if you talk to anyone in the SEO industry, right, like good GEO is actually good SEO.
Yeah.
And so you don't want that. And you don't also don't want your brand to be associated with bots like that, right? Artificial reviews and fake reviews and fake posting and things like that. I think for brands, like they need to figure out how to cut through the noise organically, and for publishers, they've got to figure out how to clean up the system. And for LLMs, like an AI, like they got to really think about like the largest authoritative sources that they need to weight more appropriately, and in my opinion, actually pay because they're scraping their content, right? So I think that's kind of the world that we're headed into. I think it's going to get a lot messier before the greener pastures there. But if I was a brand right now, I would not be tempted to do these hacks, because I think it will have long-term repercussions that we're just starting to see across the board with some of the brands that did entertain those 6 months ago.
Totally. Yeah. So quality of content is obviously, it's the long play, but it's the right way to go. Not only does it actually drive the AEO, GEO, but also it just leaves your customers with a good taste in their mouth. I mean, like, you don't want to be like turning people off with slop.
Yep.
The other thing that really played heavily into SEO for a long time was links and backlinking and being linked to the right sites with the right domain authority. Are we still kind of playing a linking game? Does that help AEO, GEO as well?
I wouldn't say it's like a linking game, right? I think if you have a very strong like SEO foundational pieces on that, I think it's important. For me, how we're viewing AI visibility is like the larger digital footprint, right? And so it doesn't necessarily have to link back to your site and like all these other things. Like this podcast will likely be cited through LLMs at some point, right? And you're not going to be giving us a link. I'm not going to be putting the podcast link, directly. And it's not going to be a link gaming or gamification of that, right? So it's much broader, I would say. Like, you need to really be thinking about who's talking about you and how they're talking about you. And that's influencers, that's podcasters, that is PR, it's everyone, right? It's really kind of breaking your traditional marketing planning and how you're thinking about things, because you really need to start thinking about like the entire ecosystem and not just this like SEO 2.0 version. That's my opinion.
Yeah. And it feels like definitive statements really help LLMs a lot. And this is kind of part of the earned media. So if I'm thinking about the podcast, I'm always careful to spell out the URL and be like, this is a brilliant product designed specifically for founders looking for results. Because to your point, it's like the LLMs are picking up this training data, because you can't really fake. Well, I say that now, but I know there's a lot of AI podcasts out there,
Yep.
but like the training data, it's like, why wouldn't you attach yourself to podcast first? Because it's already free under RSS. I mean, it's like,
Yep.
and it's always cutting edge news across the board. It's already categorized into at least 3 categories. You already have people's names associated with it. I mean, they would have done it from the beginning if they actually had the processing power, but now it's no problem at all. I think Apple is transcribing the top 2 million podcasts, something like that, which
Yep.
I mean, there's probably 8 million publishing all the time. So 2 million podcasts per week, let's say, are being transcribed is incredible amounts of training data where they can really get to know you. So am I right to, not only for myself and what I'm up to and wanting to enunciate that clearly with repetition, but also for the guests that I want, if somebody wants to find out about Emberos, I want them coming here. Will that help the overall search presence for brands?
Yeah. Totally,
Yeah.
totally. And you throw on this podcast on YouTube, and then you've got 2 different sources, right? You put the captions
Yeah.
on YouTube, and those get cited as well. So like, I think podcasts are going to be way more powerful. They already are super powerful, but like I think you're going to start to see podcasts specifically more cited a lot more. A lot of people are talking about Reddit and LinkedIn right now, but like I said previously, is like it's your entire ecosystem, right? And so as Reddit starts to get filled with bots and fake influencers, and LinkedIn is becoming more and more like AI sloppish, right? Because people can just basically post articles all the time, and it strips out creativity and like your point of view and like your own voice, etc. I think that there's going to be other ways and kind of that the LLMs will need to clean up their training data and like really cite things. And I think the podcasts are a very natural fit for that.
Yeah. 100%. And that's a good example of earned. Paid, is this saying, so then the ads you're running on Meta, the ads you're running on Google, that you should find kind of synchronistic messaging? I mean, that's probably just good brand standards, but is there a way to optimize for your paid media?
Yeah, so we're doing some really interesting studies with one of the largest streamers right now. We're looking at exposure level data for top 5 advertisers during March Madness, actually, but also during different kind of big tentpole events. And we're looking to see really kind of drive that correlation between connected TV exposure and Gen AI search, right? To actually prove the point that linear and connected TV, it all interconnects, right? So people are actually looking at a connected TV commercial, and then they're going to Gemini or ChatGPT and saying, where do I buy, right? How do I buy X, Y, and Z, or give me more about what this drug is about, et cetera. So super interesting work happening there. And we're really thinking about it across the entire ecosystem too. So like, how does your paid media dollars, how are they impacting Gen AI and your visibility in general? And I think we're in the first inning for that, and I think there's going to be a lot of very interesting work that's going to be poured out over the next 12 to 18 months. The biggest thing I think for all companies is that the measurement piece isn't fully built out yet, right? And so just like early days of search or social or even mobile, the early adopters in this space were, when a new channel popped up, were really the winners of that era. And even before like the messiness of like Google Analytics, and it took about 4 years, 2 to 4 years to like roll that out. Mobile or like social, it took about about 3 years for social listening tools and social attribution, and same thing with mobile. But the people, the brands, and the marketers that understood that was going to be the net new channel that they need to be in on, and we're okay with the measurement piece not being fully kind of ironed out yet, we're still the winners of that kind of era. So I feel like we're in that window right now.
Yeah.
And we're seeing the CMOs that are innovative and really understand the importance of it and feeling the pain from the search side. They are really leaning into the space.
Yeah. Well, it's like the old adage, if it can be measured, it can be managed. So
Yep.
if you have to start somewhere, and Emberos is a great spot to do that. So, what is exactly being measured inside of Emberos? What could maybe just describe some of the reports and the reporting that somebody would be looking at when they're logged in?
Yeah, so we intentionally built an operating system for marketers, for agencies, for marketers, We still have sections of our UI that are very like data heavy for the practitioners, data scientists, and analytics, but we wanted to make sure that we demystified kind of this whole space for marketers to understand how they're showing up across all the major LLMs, what can they do to fix it, and actually the fixes that they make, are they proving lift? And so the types of reports that you would see in different agents that we have, so we have 5 different agents. The first agent is like really detecting and monitoring, and I would say that's probably where the majority of the AEO and GAO space is. It's like a monitoring layer. So we'll show you what we call share prompt, and that share prompt is essentially our version of share voice. It's the metric that I think everyone should be looking at. And we break that out across 3 different scores, which is one kind of like a brand ownership score. So if someone is, if you're Netflix and someone's typing in how much does Netflix cost, 1, you want to make sure you're showing up if they're actually typing in your brand, but 2, you want to make sure the cost that is getting spit out through the LLMs is the right cost, right? There's a lot of hallucinations happen, and there's a lot of issues that are going on just around truth, right? Is it actually true in terms of how it's representing your brand? The second kind of like weighting of share prompt for us is a category dominance. So it's you versus your competitors. So Netflix versus Hulu. And then the third kind of weighting for share prompt is around intent-based prompts. So what should I watch tonight? Or what is the best streaming service? So how is Netflix showing up across each one of those kind of 3 scores rolls up to the total share prompt. We show you what your competitors' share prompt is. We show you, how your site is being is your site readable for LLMs, and give you kind of a pass and fail kind of grade across that. So schema markup and all that fun stuff. We also give you kind of like AI response consistency. So are they consistently talking about your brand in the right way? And then the kind of like next layer to this, which I think a lot of our competitors are not really playing in, and they maybe are giving you, showing you the problem, but they're not necessarily showing you like how to fix it, right? And so for us, we give you strategic fixes across paid, owned, and earned. And those could be like create a YouTube video that clears up this specific kind of hallucination that's happening, or work with your PR team to get placement into these specific publishers. It also is like your classic like AEO and GEO fixes, or what we call fix packs, which is basically like create an FAQ on your site. We then track those changes, and those get like basically tagged to the right corresponding team. We track those changes, and we see we give you a predicted lift of what we think those changes would have. Once those changes are implemented, we actually show you what the actualized lift is. And so we'll show you a lot of different views just around closed loop rate, and average time to lift, et cetera. So a lot of different views. I would say what we do a very good job at is like showing you how you're showing up across each one of the LLMs, and you can drill down to ChatGPT versus Perplexity versus Grok, et cetera.
Interesting. So does it reverse engineer it? So for example, with this podcast, could I put in AI for founders in there, and then it would give like a series of question or prompts that is surfacing that result?
Correct. Yep. Like, yeah. What are people searching for when they mention your name or AI for founders? And we'll give you kind of the full prompt layer that is the top 200 or 300 prompts that people are asking about for this podcast specifically.
Amazing. And then how can I influence that? Because with LLMs, like I really think about it of like, how do I want the audience to feel? Like where do I want to show up when they have a certain feeling? Well, I want the audience, and audience I mean founders, and I'm sympathetic to them because I know how hard it is, and I know the feelings that they're feeling are dark at times, and I want to be there. I want to be there to be encouraging. I want to be there to have go-to-market tactics. I want to be there to have novel tools and experiences from other colleagues and peers that will help inspire them and give them information, help them feel supported. Like I want to show up there. So is there a way that I can start to influence the way that my brand's showing up through the search engines?
I think, yeah, we would have to see, for us, like with any big brand or, influencer or whatever, we would actually start with like a baseline and seeing, is AI even looking at you correctly, right? There's like like a baseline piece, right? Like, is it saying it's AI for Founders podcast, but it's actually saying it's about, you know, uh, a specific subset of AI founders that you're like, it's very narrowly focused. Like it might actually say that you're streaming on these platforms, but you're not. Like there's just a general baseline that we need to like actually clean up across the board. And that's usually how we start with our customers. And then we would like go into with you and actually, give you kind of the top prompts that people are asking, right? And work with you to figure out what the KPIs are. So if you want to get in front of them at the moment of time where they are struggling, we would work with you to figure out specific and like strategic fix packs, these optimization recommendations that you would have to implement to make sure that you're listed during that moment of time, right? And that's just kind of like one use case, but like for us, like we like let's just say like a tech company, comes to us and they want to be more visible. There's a world where we might actually suggest that the founder goes on this podcast as a fix pack, right? Because we know it's getting cited a lot more within the LLMs.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like working both ways there.
Like to give a shout out to this audience. I have a lot of traffic coming from LLMs.
There we
that
go.
also
Come on board.
that sounds like a good earned opportunity, but it also sounds like an owned opportunity because you can start to craft then your own content, whether it's YouTube or it's blog content or it's other things that you're publishing your own self that like is probably nurturing to that. So oftentimes there's misalignment that, on paper, it's like, okay, yeah, I want to create a resource for everybody to see the top AI tools in 2026. Okay, great. But actually, if I really think about it, I want a greater, deeper personal relationship with the emotional content of my guests and my listeners. So those two things are misaligned. So now I'm making all this content about all these great tools and doing reviews and stuff, but that's not actually what I'm looking for. So maybe with some of this measurement, some of this management tools, you can like realign your own strategy to go create the content that's ultimately going to give you the outcomes you're looking for.
Yep. Yep. I think we're in the first inning of this too, right? Like like there's a foundational layer that needs to be laid to clean up the LLMs and the hallucination rates and the truth scores, etc. But I think I think as we all get deeper into the space, like we're all diving into like an unknown, uncharted territory here. There's going to be really interesting use cases that pop up, right? Around, a brand comes to us and says, we want to, get this type of like message out there. What are the kind of like podcasters or influencers that we should work with because, they will be cited more and they actually align better to the brand messaging. So, yeah, I mean, I think you're spot on. I think it's early days here. And I think like, it's going to iterate and evolve over the next like 12 to 18 months.
It's happening so quickly. I mean, a year ago, the hallucinations were really out of control. Now it's really slimming up. And I want to ask you about that because I had something rear up on Sunday. So Sunday, there's a Nuggets matinee game. We're playing the Trailblazers at 3 p.m. I looked on Gemini. I was like, when's the next Nuggets game? Sunday, 3 p.m. Trailblazers. You can stream it on Altitude Plus, which is like the Nuggets like app or whatever. Yep. So, I pull up Altitude Plus, 3 p.m. I got, some burritos cooking. I'm ready to have a great Sunday afternoon. It's not on the app. I'm like, what the? And so for some reason, it was blacked out across the board. They just decided that no streaming platform for the first time this season is, and even though I have a $20 a month subscription to Altitude Plus, see, I'm still a little bit hot about it. But what was really kind of irritating is if they would have told me in the first place that it is blacked out, but I had to do 3 other searches, so that's my rant against hallucinations. Where should people be really concerned about hallucinations right now? It's, late March 2026.
I mean, the hallucinations for like the obvious ones are happening across the board, but it's what I'm nervous about, what I'm scared about is the hallucinations are for the ones that we actually aren't like double checking, right? So pricing and best insurance. And like, if I was an insurance company, I would be making sure that they're talking about our insurance and our, our brand or our policy in a compliant way. And I can safely say a lot of that is not happening, right? We're working with studios and LLMs misgenre films 20% of the time.
Yeah.
We worked with a small studio. They picked up a title from a festival. It was labeled as a violent thriller, and the comp for it was John Wick. I don't know if you've ever seen John Wick, but like someone dies literally every second. And no one actually dies in this movie. So we worked with them over a 4-week period to implement those fix packs and actually re-genre that film to what it was, which is a dark comedy. And this type of concept is happening across gaming, right? It's happening across political. It's happening across, retail, etc. So like, it might not have like a hallucination, like an immediate one that we're seeing like automatically, but there is a whole other layer that's happening that needs to be cleaned up. And like the genrering piece is just a perfect example for, a piece of the LLMs that like it needs to be tightened, because for a studio, it really affects like how their box office opening weekend will look like, but it also affects in 6 months when someone says, I want a movie similar to Marty Supreme. They want their title, which is the comp for it, to be showing up, not someone that says I want movies similar to John Wick, and their title pulls up for it, and then like the consumer doesn't like it, right? So it's a massive issue, and it's a massive issue for literally every vertical. It just depends. Like, use genre as an example and apply it to other kind of like bigger things, narrative like things for different brands or companies or products or individuals. Like it's happening across the board. The hallucination rates might feel like a little less, but there's also this other kind of layer to it that I think that we're not really fully even scratching the surface to yet.
Yeah. The other thing, companies are really considering now is, and they should be, is creating giant MCP servers that connects all their data, and with that, it has some promises of some like really cool opportunities and tools, also some very dangerous leak opportunities.
Yeah.
So there's some great products that are coming together to make sure that there's locally stored, credentialed attributes that like the right people get the right data and everything's filtering into the right place. So these are kind of local AI applications where they want to keep things sequestered from checking down to ChatGPT, OpenAI, or Perplexity, or whoever, largely because we don't know what Sam Altman's going to do with your proprietary data, including your personal emails and your banking accounts and your medical records and everything else. There could be serious liability. So you want to make sure that like some things are not being fed to train these LLMs. What are some maybe unexpected things that people actually should be training the LLMs that maybe they're not from their brand?
We work with a biotech company, and science is taking a kind of a hit right now. I think there's no question about that. Like, you've got the left, which is anti-insurance and big pharma, and the right, which is like Maha, anti-vax, and then you've got this completely unregulated health and wellness industry, and science is like caught in the political crosshairs of everything, right? And so we work with them and saying like, hey, you sit on a bed of like really robust scientific data, right? Research data. But you've gated it from the LLMs to be able to make it readable. And what it can read actually can't really fully digest. And so let's put your asset, your most valuable, like, that is not, as long as it's not proprietary and like people, it's not a privacy issue, but like let's make sure that we take things in a digestible way and put them out so LLMs can make it more readable, and then it will actually get cited more. And so like, I think there's a lot of use cases like that where like, the true kind of studies and testing of science, like they should be cited more than just some sort of random blog that comes up and this is the POV on this specific topic or research, etc. So like if you sit on like kind of a bed of like research data and like those types of things, I think it's really powerful for you to make sure that those are optimized appropriately, where it's not sharing trade secrets or anything like that, but like that you want to have the world know what your point of view is on specific topic X, right? Um, so that's one use case. I think this kind of happens across the board for different verticals. But I would say like just doing a full audit of kind of like what are the LLMs actually picking up about your brand? What is being readable by these LLMs and AI chatbots? And is the stuff that you're actually putting out there, is it getting picked up? And is the stuff that you're not, like, do you want it to get picked up, right? What I like to say, and you kind of mentioned it earlier, is that the internet, like, is it becoming like this like chatbot, like AI, like agentic world, right? And I think there's a lot of doom and gloom out there, just like around what the internet is going to look like. But for me, I like to say that the internet is really splitting in two. There's a internet for humans, right? Our classic internet. And then there's going to be an internet for LLMs and AI chatbots to be able to retrieve information in an appropriate way for them to be able to cite it and recommend. And so I think every brand and every business owner needs to be thinking about that, because, like I said earlier on, like this change is happening quite rapidly. And from our point of view, is like the internet is always going to exist, and it might look a lot different, right? But I still think there's like a piece for like premium content. But I also think that, like, if you're thinking about content, like, you should probably think about, is it being readable by the LLMs as well? Because more and more people will be going there for asking for information.
It's such an interesting future we're going into, two internets, one for people, one for agents. Right now, there's some criticism on LLMs that they're too sycophantic, just meaning that it's too complimentary. Oh, that's such a great idea. It's like, no, it's not. That's not, I don't want you to say that. I want you to challenge my thinking.
Yeah.
But now we're basically at a place where we've commoditized intelligence. Intelligence is free. I feel like it's smarter than me. So far, that probably wasn't a big hurdle to get over. But also, like, as humans, we, at least some of us, like, kind of prioritize information. So like you're saying, like, are the LLMs going to pick up kind of academic rigor in scientific inquiry and prioritize that because it has a certain credential behind it? Or there are definitely already AI influencers that people are going to like a lot more than some egg-headed white coat, telling them about like what the science is. So is it going to default to like, well, the AI, personal trainer told me this, that's what I like. So is it going to default information and like really kind of further silo those people? And then the people that are like, no, actually, I prefer like scientific backed studies. And so it'll create a separate reality for those folks. We don't really know yet. I would like to describe a future scenario, maybe near future, and get your take maybe on kind of where we're going and what you'd like to see kind of as a result of kind of the LLMs, because it is kind of a blooming intelligence that's kind of coming alive. So
Yeah.
real quick story. So the other day I did 3 lattes. That's a bad look for me. I'm really a 2 latte kind of guy, because I get a little jittery. But anyway, I did 3 lattes, and so I wasn't really hungry. So it's 4:30. I'm on my way to do yoga sculpt, and I realized I hadn't eaten anything all day, and I'm like, dang it, man, I can't do yoga sculpt on an empty stomach. I'll pass out or something. And I wasn't near anything except a Freddy's, and so I had a grilled bacon club chicken sandwich, which was delicious, by the way. But I'm counting my macros. I don't want to drop 1,200 calories at one time like that, but that's really all I could have. So I see in a future shortly where all of my information is either sequestered or up to the cloud, but it's all available to me, that like before I'm leaving in my glasses, it's like, it shows me maybe a little fuel sign that has like low protein, low calories. And before I go, I can grab a snack. You know what I'm saying? So the predictive quality of AI is what I'm really looking forward to, where it is kind of like now it's not only my confidant and my girlfriend. I'm just kidding. But it's
Right.
also like it's giving me recommendations based on like my blood sugar level or all these other data points. So, I'm careful now of like how I'm adding context to my agent. What am I putting into that MCP? What am I putting into my skills folders? How much do I want to put parameters and barriers on it? Rather, how much do I want to trust that it actually might know me better than I know myself? So that's a long way around saying like, what does the future look like in the next 12 to 24 months, you think, with the LLMs?
Yeah. What a story. I, I wish I had a crystal ball. And for me, I don't even know if we're going to know what that future fully looks like. Because as you mentioned at the very start of this, like it's everyone feels like they're behind because the AI is like the updates and like the innovation that's happening is so rapidly kind of changing and getting announced and released, etc. That even with you have a full team of agents doing the research, I don't know if you can actually keep up with everything, right?
Yeah.
Uh, so, I think there will be some sort of conducted, like there's obviously like OpenAI health and like there's a lot of like personalization that's happening across the board. I think it will be very interesting to see what the hardware piece looks like, right? I think voice is a very interesting one too. Like a lot of chatter just around how much voice is going to be playing a big role in this. So you know, I don't know like how what the like innovation windows will look like, but I will say in the next 12 months it will look very differently than what we have today. Um,
Agreed.
and will that be meaning we have like a glasses or a pen that we just talk into and like our uh, typical like a phone interface like will start to diminish over time? Maybe. Um, will it be predictive in nature, right? I think for the predictive health stuff, like that you get kind of a little that's like a muddy water. So I don't know how quickly that will happen, but I don't think any company wants to get into like the full predictive of like nature of those types of things on a daily basis. I think predictive of in terms of like large kind of diseases and things like that are super interesting, right? That's can be groundbreaking and cure cancer, etc. But predicting if you're going to be hungry and you're going to pass out at yoga, I don't know if that's going to be happening anytime soon. Maybe in the next 2 years, I don't know. But I think for all of us, I think we all, especially the people on the forefront like yourself, Ryan, we know that the world is going to look very different, right? And what I get concerned about is like my parents' generation, right? Like where they're going to be, we're going to have whiplash. What are they going to like feel like? Do they effectively get locked out of that conversation, right? Like, do
Yeah.
they effectively get locked out of my technical standpoint? I mean, I had my father send me like an AI generated video of like the streets of Paris, and he's like, look how bad Paris has gotten recently. And I was like, Dad, this is like a totally different, like this is obviously clearly AI generated, but like it's getting so good now, right? Where like even the well-trained eye like cannot know what it is. So I think there's gonna have to be some governmental regulation, and I don't know if we are gonna see that in the next like 2 years. But I think you know uh, impersonations and like artificially generated like content can start wars. And I think there needs to be a lot more regulation around that. And I think a lot of it has to do with the tech companies to like actually put some rigor behind that too, because the cat's already out of the bag, right? But like, how do we make sure that we're having a positive impact on society versus a negative one? And that's kind of the darker vision that I'm a little concerned about. Now, I think the fun like bells and whistles of like personal health, I think that will all be there in 12 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I share that concern, and I really hope that it's going to be a soft landing for like our nanas and papas,
Yeah.
I kind of think that like right now, people that are listening to this podcast thinking they're behind, you're definitely not. If you're
No.
using Emberos and checking out your search viability, you're definitely not. But what you are doing is you're with me and we're in the mud and we're going underneath the barbed wire on our forearms and once we get out, we'll be able to open the door, is what I'm hoping, and all the nanas and papas can come out and be like, "Oh, it's so nice," and be like, "Yeah, yeah," because we just
Yeah.
went through all that mud. So
Yeah.
if
I hope
I'm
I
hoping that happens.
I hope so too, Ryan. I hope so too. I think it's just, it's like it's just happening so rapidly. And I think it's a little bit of like a light switch that's going to happen in like 12 to 18 months. And hopefully it's a slow burn for like some of these things, but I think from like the tech advancements and like the hardware standpoint, like all the other things that are happening, consumer change, consumer behavior shifting, and like it's just happening so rapidly. But yeah, I'll share the same viewpoint. Like let's get in the mud together and kind of carve the path for the both the younger generation and the older generation too.
Totally. All right. We're about to enter the quantum round. While I got you for a couple more minutes, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, we're talking about medical diagnosis from AI, which is coming sooner or later. But let's say you go to the doctor today and you get an unfavorable diagnosis. Let's just say it's shin splints. You're like, dang it, I didn't want shin splints again, but the doctor said so. Which LLM are you going to get the second opinion on that diagnosis?
Gemini.
Gemini, no kidding.
Yeah, yeah. I think Gemini has the most robust like research capabilities, like deep research within Gemini. It's hard to replicate across all of that. So I would do Gemini.
Incredible. Have you ever had a Freddy's Bacon Club sandwich?
I haven't, but it sounds amazing.
It's delicious. It really did the trick. Not too much, not too little. I thought it was perfect. What aside from Emberos, what experiments? How are you playing around with AI right now?
Agents, like trying to figure out how do we agentify, we're an AI first company. And, for me, I've just had like a conversation with our head of people. Like, I actually think AI readiness and like how you're leveraging the best tools at our exposure, and, SOC 2 compliant and compliancy like space, right? Like, should be all part of like performance reviews, right? Like we should be leveling ourselves in terms of like how advanced we are and how much we're leveraging AI. And agents are unlocking, a whole nother world for us, and we're trying to figure out how do we leverage these things where it's helping kind of our current employees do their job better, faster, stronger, etc. But also not over relying on the agents, right? Because we still need humans.
Yeah.
And I firmly believe that too. Like, the humans buy from humans thing. I think the agents buying this type of software from a different agent, I don't see that happening in the next 12 to 18 months.
Yeah,
So
I
yeah.
totally agree. What's your tech stack? Are you doing OpenClaw? Are you doing Claude Cowork?
So I do Claude Cowork. I would like to do OpenClaw, but it's been told to me, at least by our compliance, it's not SOC 2 compliant. So we cannot adopt it yet, but we're doing Claude Cowork. We're testing Perplexity Computer, and just trying to like get up to speed on all the latest tools and innovation that's happening across the board for us to get to the next level.
Cool. If you're entering college today as a freshman, what would you study?
Woo. That's a really good question. Would I would say like prompt engineering, but like I just think that's all going to be automated in 4 years, right? Like I think it's going to be more of like a voice activation thing. Um, I would do like you know, coming from the tech guy, I don't know if this would be the best thing, but like I think there is a genuine kind of concept here where it's like we grew up in a generation where it was like we were memorizing facts, right? Like we were basically regurgitating flashcards that we saw, but we we're memorizing. That is no longer needed, right? I've got a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old, and I'm like thinking about like what is their world going to look like. I do think that there's like this concept of like instead of generating like all the facts about a war, there's the context piece that is like why did this war start, right? And like there's a psychology piece of it that I think is super interesting, that and like the getting deeper on that I think our schools will have to be training kids around this, because it's no longer just about memorizing facts, right? Because it's already at their exposure, like at their fingertips. And so I don't know if I answered that question, but I think like, I don't know, psychology, political science, like, but like obviously having some sort of like technology aspect to it. So, you know, AI engineering, maybe. I don't know.
Liberal arts with AI engineering minor.
There we go. I love that.
Yeah.
That's a perfect candidate.
Cool. Okay, last question. This has been great, Justin. So somebody right now is going to Gemini and they're sitting down after a long day and they're going to ask Gemini, what should I watch on TV tonight? And Justin Inman's vote is going to sway the LLM into one particular direction. What should they watch? Anything stand out? Movies, TV shows, sports? What are you into right now?
I've been binging Hulu's Paradise. I don't know if you've seen that. It's like
No. What's it
it's kind of
about?
like it's like the end of the world type thing. There's a bunker. I like apocalyptic things. Maybe that's why I'm working in AI. Who knows? But I love like true crime and stuff. So maybe I'm not the best person for this. But yeah, Paradise is it's a great one. Season 1 is like amazing, and they just released season 2, so I've been binging it right now.
Amazing. Justin, this has been so much fun. It's Emberos.ai, Emberos.ai is the product. Go check it out today. And believe me, you're early. If you're hearing this, you're early. Go check out Emberos. Justin, what's the best place for people to connect with you online?
LinkedIn.
LinkedIn. We'll throw that in the show
Yep.
notes. So wherever you're listening to this, definitely click on Justin's profile. He's a great ad on LinkedIn. Thank you so much for joining me.
Cool. Thank you so much, Ryan. Appreciate it.
You are about to spend anywhere from $100,000 to $300,000 on your kid's college education, and that's not a small bet. And right now, there's a very real chance that they graduate and can't find a job, not because they weren't smart enough, not because they didn't work hard enough, but because the job market changed and nobody told them. Employers are hiring AI native candidates, people who don't just know their field, but know how to work with AI at a professional level. And most colleges are not teaching this, not even close. AInativestudent.com is the program that fills that gap. It takes high school and college students and teaches them how to actually think and work with AI the way top companies expect on day one, so your investment in their degree actually pays off. You're already paying for tuition, housing, textbooks. This is the one thing that actually makes it all worth it. Go to AInativestudent.com because a diploma is a starting point. Being AI native is what gets them hired. That's AInativestudent.com.